Welcome to the primary market Schuldschein update in the second quarter 2022. The second quarter in capital markets was quite turbulent due to the geopolitical situation, which was dominated by the war in Ukraine, but also COVID and its consequences. What were the impacts on the bond and Schuldschein market? Can you a little bit elaborate on this, Oli?
Let's start with the Schuldschein market first. In the second quarter 2022, we saw 11 billion euros being placed in the market in 47 transactions. That is a whopping 4 billion euros more than in the already quite dynamic first quarter of this year. So when we look back into the history of the Schuldschein market, there was only one quarter, the second quarter 2008, where we saw a slightly higher issuance volume. What was the reason at that time? Well, we know from the financial crisis that at that time the bond market was closed for a lot of issuers, and they turned to the Schuldschein market to seek financing there. Today, the situation is somewhat similar, that we are in an environment of raising interest rates, and the Schuldschein market seems to offer less volatile conditions for issuers than the bond market, and that lured a lot of bond issuers onto the Schuldschein market in the second quarter. That, on the other hand, means that the issuance volume in the bond market in the second quarter of this year was quite low.
Interesting. Indeed, the spreads went up significantly in the bond markets, and we could also see high volatility in this market segment. The Schuldschein market, in contrast, was quasi the safe haven, as we have seen previously, referring back to 2008 as well. Could you see specific issuer groups who came to the market last quarter?
Well, yes. First of all, the share of rated companies, so with an issuer rating, has risen significantly against last year. And that has certainly to do with the fact that more traditional bond issuers came to the marketplace, and they obviously normally have an issuer rating. And the second thing we see is that more companies from abroad are tapping the Schuldschein market. So for the first time ever, more than half of the market volume was placed by companies from abroad. So really a new record there as well. And that also tells me that these companies try to take advantage of the quite favorable financing conditions in the market at the moment.
Last year, we saw an interesting development in the US dollar. The dollar came back. We saw a few transactions. Could we see a follow-on development also in this year?
Well, at the beginning of the year, if I remember correctly, there were very few transactions, if any at all. But in the second quarter, we saw the company Holcim coming up with an US tranche in their Schuldschein. And if I remember also correctly, that was calculated by a new standard, if I'm not wrong here. But Klaus, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's true. I would also call it a new standard. The software has been accepted now by not only the issuers, but also the investor base, which is significantly broader. And I would think that we see more transactions coming to the market this year ahead. There's another topic I would like to discuss with you, sustainability. I think this is very important. How was the development there?
Well, also here we saw a quite positive development in the Schuldschein market. For the first time ever as well, more than half of the market volume was placed with an ESG component. If you look at the chart, you see the column here on the right, just blue there, or almost entirely blue. And that stands for sustainability linked Schuldschein, Schuldschein here. So meaning that the proceeds of the Schuldschein are not limited to specific projects, which offers quite a bit of flexibility to the issuing company here.
Interesting. And what do you expect for the rest of the year?
Well, what I saw in the last couple of days, the market is still quite dynamic. I had a look at what's in the market right now in marketing stage, and some 1.4 billion of launch volume in several deals are still in the market at the moment. On top of that, there are 2 billion of deals that were already closed but will be valued in the second half of this year. So I think taking these numbers and the 17 billion euros of placement volume in the first half of this year, that indicates to me that we will have a dynamic in the second half of the year as well. And I would guess that we will approach 30 billion in market volume in the entire year of 2020.
That's quite promising. Uli, thank you very much for this insight, and I hope that we will not see any capacity constraints going forward on the investor side, since looking back into the second quarter, I think we have seen 20 transactions or even more simultaneously be in the market, and at that point in time I think that's kind of a limit for the investor base. So we are looking ahead of the summer. Well, the summer is there already. However, I am not sure if we will have a summer break with this expectation and your outlook you just gave us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.